Hello everyone! Welcome to the only video year that you get to see my face and my space. It's 2025 book review, woohoo! I did this last year as well for 2024. I think I streamed it though, and this time I'm just gonna do a regular recording so that I can edit stuff and put more stuff on the screen so it's easier for you guys all to see. But yeah, 2025 is almost over. It's December 10th, so I've got a couple more weeks to read, but since I'm guessing the holiday season's gonna be busy, I've decided to just record this now and just kind of see how far I can get. So I got my reading notebook. This year I read, or so far at least, I read 51 minus 14. That many books. 38? 37. I read 37 books, which I think is more than last year. Last year I read 28. So I read a couple more. It's about 14,300 pages, which is a stupid metric, but one I like to count anyways, because obviously I read really tiny, thick paperbacks, which I'll obviously have more pages in them, but I just like to count it for fun. Honestly, I'm already thinking about how this tier list is gonna go, and it's gonna be hard for me to choose some S tiers. I felt like I read a lot of books this year, but I'm not sure how many books were good that I read. So yeah, let's just get into it. Actually, before I get into it, I do want to say, also as a part of my yearly reading, I do Reddit Fantasy Bingo, which is, I wonder if I can hold this up. Can you see it? Can you see it? Basically, Reddit provides you with like a bingo square with different categories, and you try to read books that complete those categories. So like the first 5 are Knights and Paladins, Hidden Gem, published in the 80s, High Fashion, and Down with the System. So this doesn't end until March, so I'm still trying to complete some of these squares, but I'll be saying which books I read for which squares in case anyone is interested about that. So let's get into it. For each book, I will have a small summary. I will warn you if there's spoilers. Hopefully I remember to do that. And then I'll rank it. The first one is Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson, which I actually have here because I read it so long ago, and I've read 2 of the series past that I forgot what happened. So I'm going to read you the back. This is book 1, 2, 3? This is only book 3. Okay. I thought this was longer. Book 3. Okay. The ravaged continent of Genabacchus has given birth to a terrifying new empire, the Panian Damin. Like a tide of corrupted blood, it seethes across the land, devouring all. In its path stands an uneasy alliance, One-Arm's army and Whiskey Jack's bridge burners alongside their enemies of old, the forces of the warlord Kaladin Brood, Anomander Rake, and his Tist and D-mages, and the Rivi people of the plains. There's more going on. This is book 3, so a lot of these characters have already been established. I don't really know how to explain this Malazan series very well because each book is very big. This one's like 1,000 pages, 900 something. So there's a lot going on that I can't get into without spoilers, but I really like each book because it basically drops you into a different continent with characters that maybe you've seen a little bit about, maybe are completely new. This one is the same characters as book 1, so it was nice kind of going back to this world and getting to see these characters and revisit them, and also the continent was familiar. But there were a lot of added elements with like tribes in the area and new characters who were kind of dealing with the empire that they're trying to fight, the Panian Damin. So I thought it was really, really enjoyable. It just kind of came together from the first book and the second book, even though the second book's on a different continent. It was good. So I'm gonna put it in A for now. I might move it to S later, depending on how I'm feeling. Next, oh, by the way, this was by Steven Erikson. Next, I read A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This was the first Kingfisher book I think I've ever read. And she is known for horror novels, and I was trying to get into more horror novels this year, so kind of wanted to start with her. Honestly, I did not like this book. I think I actually started it, read like 90% of it, and then touched the last 10% 2 months later. I will say the main character is an ornithologist. Oh, no. She studies bugs. This was so long ago. Entomology. So she's an entomologist. And I really did like that sort of POV because Kingfisher writes this entomologist like character really, really well. And she had like a very particular voice and it was really funny. But when it came to the horror elements, it was like going back to grandma's house because she's died and we have to clean it out and things start getting weird. I just like really, I don't know, once you kind of figure out, there's kind of two reveals. Once you figure out the first reveal of what's going on in the house, I was just not interested. I wasn't really that scared. I don't know. Maybe because I'm used to reading longer books, this one moved a bit too fast for me. But I didn't love it. I'm gonna put it... It's hard for me to rate things in D and F because I'm just not a very tough grader, but I'm gonna put it in D. Okay, next is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This one is actually a reread. I read it last year as well, and I read it in preparation for Two Twisted Crowns, which took me a while to get to, as you can see, it's over here. This is in chronological order, by the way, so these books I read at the start of 2025, this last book I'm currently reading. It's like YA fantasy, which I don't really go for these days. I don't really love the YA genre, but my friend was really wanting me to read it, and it was pretty enjoyable. The two things I really like about it is that there's a card-based magic system. So it's kind of like a deck of cards, but it goes in diminishing order how many cards there are. So like the most powerful card, there's only one of them. Then the second most powerful, there's two, and then three, and so on. And each card has a different power. So one of them, I'm trying to think of what they all do. One of them, you can tell if someone is trying to hurt you in some way. One of them gives you like better fighting powers. One of them, you can read minds. One of them, you can make people tell the truth. So things like that. So I liked that. And then the main character, she has somehow, this isn't really spoilers. I don't know how to say this without giving away the like rest of the lore, but basically she has like a monster inside of her. And I love that kind of thing. I like corruption arcs, so I like when the main character is like, no, like I'm not gonna give in, but what if I did, because I'm more powerful. So that's kind of happening with her in the first book. So I like that. That's pretty fun. It ends interestingly, so I would put it maybe C, maybe B. I'll put it in B for now. We'll see. And honestly, I'm just going to talk about the second one real quick before I forget. So this is the second one in the series. It's called Two Twisted Crowns. This one I liked a lot less, mostly because the main character in this one, Elspeth, she's the main point of view character, and she's not really the main point of view in this one. So I just like didn't really care for any of the other characters. I didn't care about the romance, and yes, it's YA, so it's mostly romance, but I was more interested with her and like the beast inside of her and their sort of dialogue, and then that is not as important in the second book. So I didn't really like it that much. Next is Diavola by, can I read that? Wait, no. Maybe it's in my Reddit bingo from last year. I think it is. Jennifer Thorne. It was published in 2024. That was the square I used last year. Because Reddit bingo ends in March, so technically it was 2025, but I could use last year's Reddit bingo. Wow. So Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. This book, I was finding the like thumbnail for it to add to this tier list and realized I didn't remember anything about it. Here's what I do remember. Very dysfunctional family goes on vacation in Italy, and there's a spirit there who is messing with the main character. And honestly, because the main character, I think she has depression or something like that, and her family, I can't even explain how dysfunctional her family is. They're all manipulative. None of them believe her about what's going on in the house, and they blame her for a lot of things. So that, honestly, that was kind of more stressful than The Ghost. I thought it was going to be way, way darker than it was, and I was kind of happy with the way it ended because it wasn't as dark as I thought. So I was happy with that. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. I don't really remember it that much, so I'm going to give it a C tier. It was a good, like, one-off horror novel, and I remember liking it when I read it, but it just wasn't memorable. Next, we have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I did not finish this book. This was a did not finish, but I think I read like 70% of it, so I decided to add it just to talk about it. I think it was maybe also YA. I don't even know why I picked it up, to be honest. Kind of just, I think it was on sale on Kindle, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just read it. I didn't like where the story was going in terms of, it was like, I did like the setting. I'll start with what I liked. I liked the setting. I think it was based off like Indian folklore, kind of like medieval India, like the medieval ages, but India, so that sort of vibe. And the main character is from a religion that has been eradicated, more or less, by the reigning regime. And she's kind of like the last one left, but there's some little factions of rebels who are still remaining, and I think another character is trying to get her to be more active with like rebelling. That is as far as I got. There is a magic system. She is related to this magic system somehow. I didn't like it, so I don't remember it. I'm just gonna put in I don't want to put in F because it wasn't really a bad book, it just wasn't for me. What I didn't like about it, I felt that there was too much back and forth with, like, should we or shouldn't we? Should we rebel? How are we gonna rebel? Blah, blah, blah. But there was not actually anything happening in the book. I thought the characterization was really flat. Like, her whole thing was that she is from a monastery and she has childhood trauma because obviously the monastery was destroyed. But she's really skilled and great at everything, and give me some flaws. I don't know. I didn't vibe with it. So D it is. The next book is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, which I got for Christmas, I believe. This is a series of 5, I think, or 6 short stories. And the author's Korean, and if you know kind of current Korean like politics, I guess you could say, social politics, there's a lot of stuff happening with like women's, how do I say this, like whether or not women want to have children, and the government is basically like, yes, you should have children, we're gonna pressure you to have children, and women are like, I can't afford to have a child, society is not good when I have to raise a kid, and also what if I want to work, like things like that. So this book was a lot about like kind of womanhood and societal issues in Korea, but through the lens of horror. The first story, this is kind of graphic, so you can skip ahead if you want, skip to the next thumbnail, is about a woman who every time she poops in the toilet, she makes this like shit baby, and the shit baby is in the toilet like talking to her, and then things go from there. That's one of them. Another one of the stories is a girl gets pregnant and the doctors are like, you have to find a husband before you have the baby or else you're gonna die, or else the child's gonna turn out weird, something like that. So you can tell that there's a lot of like commentary on societal roles for women in Korea and what the expectations are about having children. So it was really weird. I didn't love it. I'll put it above Diavolo, but I can appreciate it for what it was, because some of the stories were so weird that I finished it and I was like, yo, why did I just read about a woman making a shit baby? Okay, next we have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This book series, which are these 3, The Graduate, Last Graduate, and then The Golden Enclaves, I really, really liked. I'm gonna make sure this is lined up on my camera so you guys can see. Yeah, okay. The Deadly Education is basically about, or A Deadly Education, is basically about the main character whose name is some Lord of the Rings name, but she goes by Elle, I think. She's in this school, and it's in like a void. Like nobody else can access the school, and every time you go up a level in the school, that the school actually like spirals down until you get to the ground floor, and that's when you graduate. But the whole thing is, the reason it's in a void is because monsters are attracted to these mages, these wizards, whatever they're called, and they try to get into the school and kill them. So it's kind of like, it's not anarchy because the kids all are really trying to stay alive, so they do have some sort of like system, but it's also sort of like every student for themselves. And the main character, Elle, Galadriel or Elle, that was really hard for me to track down. So her deal is that she basically has the most powerful magic like ever, but it's evil magic. And basically when she's asking the library for a spell, like she wants to clean her room, she gets like spell to summon a volcano to kill everybody and also clean your room, things like that. And so the whole time she's like fighting with like trying not to kill everyone because she's like a good person, but her magic makes her kind of dangerous. And then she eventually like becomes friends with the golden boy, who's like the most popular guy in school, and his whole thing is he just likes to like fight and save people. And he's also like very kind of sheltered, but also he just doesn't really have any social awareness, so their dynamic is really interesting. I really liked this book. I'm gonna put it in A. What I really liked about it was that Elle's dialogue, or her voice, because it's a first-person point of view, it's like stream of consciousness. It's basically her thinking all the time, and she has a very caustic like inner voice. She's kind of mean but realistic in a funny way. So I really liked that. It's not really like anything I normally read. There were a lot of run-ons going on, so I thought that was fun. The Last Graduate is the next book in the series. I didn't like it as much because I think the world was already established, so it wasn't as interesting to me. And this one also takes place in the school that the first one does, but this one is actually her graduating. In the first book, she's 1 year below graduation, if that's how you say it. And then in this one, she's graduating. I'm gonna put it in D tier. Or B tier. Yeah, I don't really have a reason for not liking it as much. Maybe I just got bored because I read them one after another. Still good though, still very good. Steve Erickson, he comes back for House of Chains. So this book is the same as this series. I'll grab it. Here's House of Chains. Doesn't it look super interesting and fun with these giant dogs? I liked this one less. I don't know if I would put it in B tier, or maybe. I have to remember what happens, low-key. Yeah, okay. I liked this one less because the main point of view character for the first, like, third of the book, his name is Karsa, I believe. Yeah, his name is Karsa. And he's a horrible person. He's not like a human, he's like a different race of being, which is like, getting into it is too spoilery and also too confusing, but he's just like a really bad person, and it's not really his fault. Like societally, his race of beings considers humans as like children, and their whole thing is to go out and just kill them if they can. He's just not a good person, but then he gets not sold, he gets like captured into slavery, and he goes through all this character development, and even though he's still not a good person, like you kind of want to root for him because he's realizing that his way of thinking and his like clan's way of thinking is not correct, and his religion is a sham, which is always fun. So that, I mean, it's interesting and I can appreciate that, but I just like he was just a really stressful character to read about. And then one of the other main characters was the same as from book 2, and she's like the leader of this desert faction that is trying to rebel against the Empire who's in the desert. And I think her POVs were just unnecessarily confusing. I'm putting it in B because I'm realizing now as I'm saying it. There was a lot of back and forth, like they're being invaded and the final war between the desert faction and the Empire is coming. There was just way too much lead up. I mean, this book is 1,000 pages. Probably took me forever to read. And then the ending was sad, so that's why it's gonna go in B. Terry Pratchett, Guards. Okay, this book... Oh my god, do I put it in B or do I put it in A? I have to think about it. Terry Pratchett, if you guys don't know about Terry Pratchett, is really famous for, or really well known for writing books in the Discworld series, which is like the same shared universe, I believe, of a bunch of different books. Like, I want to say like 30 books, maybe more. But they're broken up into little series. So this one, called Guards, is the first book in the Night Watch series. And then there's some other ones. One of them, I think, one of the series is about death, like the character Death. This is the first one I've ever read, so I'm not really that well informed about Terry Pratchett books. But this book, oh my god, it was so funny. Like, I think Terry Pratchett is known for being like a very entertaining writer. I don't even, like, how do I describe this? Like, just like the made up words and the characters, like it opens with a cult. It opens with a cult like starting a ritual to summon a dragon, but the cult is like simultaneously trying to be so serious, but as an outside perspective, like as the reader, it's just so stupid. It's like satire. It was just so funny. Like, honestly, all the characters and the dialogue were funny, but not in a crass way. I mean, sometimes, but in a very complex way, where sometimes I remember the first like 20%, not maybe less, 10% of the book, I actually had to reread because I started it thinking it was going to be like a funny, easy read. And I was like, wait, this is actually like kind of hard to follow. I need to come back to this later. So I reread it, but it's hilarious. The reason I wouldn't put it in A, I'm gonna put it at the top of B here, is because I was really intrigued with the characters and the dialogue and the writing in general, but the story, which was basically fighting a dragon, one faction summons a dragon, the Night Watch or the Guards are trying to get rid of the dragon. I wasn't interested in any of the dragon stuff. I just didn't care actually what the characters were up to. I was more interested in random conversations they had, which I thought were funny, so that's why I'm gonna put it B, but it's the top of B. I am trying to order these, this is a high B, over here will be a low B, so we'll go through that. Golden Enclaves. This is the third book in the Deadly Education series, which is this one. And I would put this below here. Usually my thing with trilogies is that the first book establishes the world, the second book starts to make the world less stable, and the third book is just okay, all bets are off, here's what's actually happening. And sometimes I don't like that because sometimes it's because it's not as structured, sometimes it's just I'm not interested in the way the story went. This one I was interested. So she gets out of school and she's dealing with the real world and there's stuff happening around the world. But generally, I just really liked the school setting, so this one was weaker to me. The only thing I really, really did like was there's a twist with how the world building works, where you think everything is based off this one principle or one element, you think things run off this, and it's actually this instead. I don't want to spoil it. That sounded really vague, I'm sorry. But it's a huge twist. I didn't see it coming at all. So I did like that, but the rest of the story in general, I was just kind of very, very B material for me. Water break. Would you guys like a horrible sticker tour? We have Mob. I'm gonna change my camera so we have Mob. We have, which way should I turn? Nick Cage and a banana. This book's from a used book place in Seattle, which is great. We have Orange Lad. Is that Orange Lad? Yeah. Orange Lad. Where's Child? There's Child. And we have Child. Isn't that really awesome? I've had this water bottle for too long, and I only put weird and bad stickers on it, and I love it. It goes everywhere with me. Anyways. Okay, now we're on Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. This book was recommended to me by a friend who is a philosophy English major, so obviously she read a lot of educational books or literary books, and this was one of them that she recommended to me. And I had never read a Le Guin book, so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. The premise of the story, is it set in Seattle? It might be set in Seattle, honestly. Is that the main character, whenever he dreams, he retroactively changes reality. So I'm trying to think of I think at the beginning he dreams that he's in a doctor's office and he dreams that the painting behind the doctor is different. And then when he wakes up, the painting is what he dreamed, and people don't remember what it was before. They always thought it was that painting that it became. So it gets interesting because the whole retroactive thing means that for a lot of the time, he's the only one who remembers what's being changed, and obviously people think he's crazy because of that. I'm gonna put it in, do I put it in S? Do I put it in A? I wanna put it in S because it's a classic. I don't really read, like, literary works because I'm just not a student, and I was never really an English student, so I don't go for these books, so I feel like I should put it in S because it's just like that kind of book that's kind of made for education and not really entertainment. But am I just putting it in S because it's a classic and it was like good and like highbrow? Maybe. Oh, I'm gonna put it in A for now, and maybe I will move either both of these or one of these up. But yeah, the book obviously gets really crazy because sometimes you can't control what you dream, and at a certain point he goes to a sleep therapist who is like dictating the dreams, and if you have an agenda, that can be a problem. So things escalate very quickly. It was a good read, very short. I think it was maybe 150 pages. Let me check. 176. So I would recommend that. It's like magic realism, sort of. So if you're like kind of not really in the fantasy realm, if you've read a lot of more like literary fiction, maybe this book is for you. Also, it's Ursula K. Le Guin, who we love. We love in this house. Okay, next we have Shaman's Crossing by Robin Hobb. So Robin Hobb, for you fantasy newbies out there who don't know anything about fantasy, I'm just gonna explain Robin Hobb. I love her. She's written a lot of really good books. Her main one is, I'm looking at, where is it? Oh, there it is. Her first series is Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Quest. Don't get me wrong, the titles sound really, really stupid, but it's a great series of books. And then she wrote the Live Ship Traders, and then the Fitz and the Fool series, and then the Rain Wild Chronicles. I'm looking at all of them right now. And then another series, but basically those first 15 of the books she's read are set in the same world. And then she's written, did I say read or written? Okay, she's written 3 others, or a couple others that aren't set in the same world, and this is one of those series, Shaman's Crossing. So this is Shaman's Crossing. This is the first one in a book series of 3, of which I've read 2 of them. This book series is very different from the other books she's read or written. Most of the books she's written are set in like kind of a generic medieval Europe. You could argue that it's Europe, but it's not really Europe. It's like fantasy, but Europe-based, European culturally kind of based. This one is more like early American settlers and Native Americans and like Manifest Destiny and all that. So there's a lot going on with, sorry, that's the wrong book, this one. There's a lot going on with like the main character. He's from a wealthy family that is like one of the lords who's gotten powerful because they've helped conquer the native people, not because they're old money. And so his family and him, to some extent, honestly, have a lot of opinions about like the civilizing white man and all that, which is like, she's obviously not writing it in a way that you think she believes that. It's just sort of a conflict that's just a part of writing a narrative that has those elements in it. The main character is kind of spineless, which is maybe a theme, not a theme, but with Robin Hobb, her books can be really, really depressing. I don't think these get away from it, but the other books with the main character, Fitz, oh man, Fitz really goes through it. Fitz has a very bad time for a very, very long time. And this guy, what's his name? Navarre. Navarre kind of has a similar deal. In the first book, it's very more structured. He goes to military school to become like a cavalier, a captain in the military, where he can go, conquer natives and build the American West, basically. But it's not America. And so I did like the structure of it. I was more interested into where it was going than where it currently was, which is why I kept reading it. So do I give this like I don't know if I want to give this a C, because it was really well written. The world was very rich. I'm gonna give it a B. I'm too kind with my book ratings. But at the end, so I guess this is spoilers if you want to skip ahead, but I will be talking about this one, the Forest Mage, like next. So at the end, he catches the plague. In fact, the whole school gets the plague, and kind of the whole city gets the plague. And it's a plague from a group of forest people who are different from like the Native American sort of based group. It's like the white people, the natives, and then the forest people. So the forest people bring the plague to the city, and a lot of people die. And we realize in the second book that Navarre is not exactly the same as he was. So, I don't know. It was really depressing. Honestly, it's just a Robin Hobb book. They're all depressing. But it was well written. Was I that interested in the world building? No, because I don't really like I'm an American. American history makes me depressed. Especially like the continent of America, like North America. It just is very sad. And so seeing a world that's based off that, kind of, and kind of the same conflicts being repeated in the same, like, because it's told from a guy who's white, like his sort of, opinions on that, I didn't love it. So maybe I'll put it lower in B. Okay, honestly, I'm going to talk about Forest Mage next, just because I'm on this sort of track. So Forest Mage is the second book in the series. And at this point, this whole square is going to be spoilers for this whole book review of this one. So this one, maybe skip ahead if you want to read this series. I don't know. It's not her most popular series, that's for sure. So, keep listening if you're not interested in reading it. But Navarre basically realizes that he's been like magically cursed from getting the plague, that he's becoming a mage from the forest people. Like he's been corrupted, I don't know. He has their magic in him now. And the magic system is that to store up magic, you need like to gain a lot of weight. And so he starts gaining weight while he's at school. And the school physician is like, yeah, I've like done your charts. I can extrapolate. Like you're never gonna get skinnier. Like we have to like let you go from the school because you just like don't have the physique to be a cavalry captain or whatever. So he gets banned from the school. And the rest of the book is like people just gaslighting him into thinking that he needs to lose weight and that like his gaining weight is somehow his fault. And nobody believes him that it's like a magical curse. But in the first place, it just really made me think about like weight culture and body culture in general, especially today with like there's a lot of pressure that a certain body type is like the attractive body type. And so like listening to his family be like, you're lazy, like because you're fat, you're never gonna amount to anything, like you hate us because you're not willing to lose this weight. And he's like, this is just how I am, I can't control this. It's magic, like I don't know what to tell you. It was just really frustrating. And this book is pretty long. It's 700 pages of basically that. At one point, his father just locks him in his room and tries to starve him out. And like at that point, the plague reaches his like manor house and most people die, and like a month later they let him out of the room and he's the exact same. So obviously it's just like not, it's obviously just like not weight that he could lose. Like and did he even need to lose it in the first place? You know, it made me have a lot of like thoughts that I had never thought about like, you know, body shaming and like, yeah, all that. So that is this one. And in the end, he is kind of like, okay, I guess I have to join the forest people now because I'm being isolated by the rest of society. So that was like very, honestly, depressing again. One, because he's not being believed a lot of the time. Two, because he's basically a pawn to this magic he can't control. And it's just like he has no agency in the story. So that was a hard read. I still liked it. I would probably actually put this one at a C because it just made me feel like so frustrated on his behalf. I have the next one. It's called Renegade's Magic. I don't know if I'm gonna read it because this was just like a really tough one too. It was kind of a slog, so I don't know if I'll ever get to it. Next we have A Wizard of Earthsea, which is like the fantasy book. I feel like when it comes to fantasy books which are about naming, like The Name of the Wind, if you know that book by Patrick Rothfuss, the whole like magic system is that if you know the true name of things, then you can control it. This is where that came from, I would say. Like I'd say a lot of naming magic in books is inspired by the Earthsea series by Ursula K. Le Guin, if I didn't say that already. So it's like the prototype, and I felt like I had to read it at some point. They're very, very short. This one was 297 pages. I actually thought it was shorter than that, but it might be the spacing of the book makes it a really easy read. I think it's more like what's below YA, like middle grade sort of reading. It's like more for kids, but it's a classic, so I felt I had to read it. And I did like it. I really liked the world building. I don't really read often that much stuff with like island nations. And the whole thing was like seafaring. Also, the main character, Ged, or is it Jed? I don't know. He's a person of color, which she actually wrote. Where do I have it? She wrote a really interesting ending, not prologue. What's it called? It's like the opposite of a foreword. Epilogue, author's note. She wrote a really interesting author's note about how important it was for her to create representation for people of color, like in this book. Because when this came out, when was it? Like main characters in fantasy books were mostly white. This came out in 1968? Yeah, 1968. So it was really kind of refreshing to read an older book, that diversity was actually like something authors thought about. And on top of that, the magic system was interesting. The whole plot of this book is that Ged, I'm gonna say Ged. But when he's, okay, I'm gonna say Ged. Don't come for me in the comments if I mispronounce this. He is like a magic prodigy, basically, but a little too arrogant. And because he's too arrogant, he kind of curses his shadow to follow him around everywhere. And so most of the book is him trying to remedy that. One, he's not perfect and he makes mistakes, and two, how is he gonna fight himself, literally? So he's at first he runs from it, and then he has to confront it at some point. So storytelling wise is pretty basic, but because of like what it is, how it's the blueprint or the foundation for a lot of fantasy books, and like fantasy authors, I would say, are very inspired by Le Guin. I have to rate it higher than I would otherwise. If this came out in 2025, I'd be like, snooze, boring, whatever. But because of the context in which it was written, I appreciate it more. Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This is a sort of small town mystery kind of book. I want to say it's set in Kentucky. Might be set in more of like the American South, but I want to say Kentucky. And the main character, does she have parents? she's a teenager and she's taking care of her little brother, and she's very poor. So part of the story is her trying to deal with like actually trying to live in small town Kentucky, and the city or the town that she's living in is like on hard times because it used to be a mining town, but now we don't mine anymore in America, really. So a lot of towns are actually like this, where the population is decreasing. They're not getting any income into the town, so it's just kind of a dead-end town. Like, it's hard to break out of the society or break out of the town and move somewhere else because you can't make enough money to do it, but being there is really depressing. So that's kind of the setting that it's in, which I liked because it was very realistic. It felt like I live in Colorado, but Colorado's a huge mining state, and I've definitely driven through towns that are exactly like that. But she starts walking by this house, the Starling House, which is like a huge, old, decrepit manor, and she realizes that, one, there's a dude there. There's a guy who lives there. Her age, oh god, what's gonna happen? It's kind of YA. And that she's having dreams about the house. And so most of the book is like her figuring out the history of the Starling House and her town in general, and then also getting involved with the more like magical side of the town, which I liked. I didn't care for the romance. I don't really ever care for romances in YA books, so I don't know, if I'm sure people liked it more than me. Would I put it in C? Would I put it in B? I'd put it in B. I'm too kind. I would put it in C, but when I look at these books I liked a lot less, so I'm gonna put it in B. What was I saying about it? I liked that it was a very realistic setting, like small town, and small towns, especially in the winter, can be very dreary, and it feels so mundane. But then there's this little glimpse of magic, and even though it's dangerous, it's still interesting, so it's kind of fun. So that's what I liked about the book. Overall, I'd say the writing wasn't anything special. I didn't care about the relationship, but it was still a fun little read. So this was the last book I read before I graduated college. Yippee! So this would be like June. And then I went into summer and I was like, wow, I have so much free time. I'm gonna read a book in Spanish, which I'd never done, but I took Spanish for many, many years, so I'm like, I can read, it's fine. But I think I saw this book, it's called Salitre y Cenizas, which is like salt and ash. I saw this book on Reddit, someone was recommending it, and I just kind of like looked it up and I downloaded a little sample of it. It was so good. I'm like really, really into this book. I'm just gonna put an A to begin with. It did a thing which I love in books, which is that the beginning of the story is told from the end point of the story. So like the main character, Leo, is... My dog is sniffing around. He is in a predicament. I guess it's the start of the book, so I can just say. He is about to be executed, and he's being interrogated by someone. It's kind of like the Inquisition, because it's Spain, I think. He is being interrogated, and then basically over the course of the interrogation, he's telling his whole story in retrospect, which I really like. I love that because it's really interesting to know where point B is and start with point A and be like, how does this person become that? So I like things like that. I mean, The Name of the Wind does that too, which I used to sing the praises of that book, and I still do to some extent, but I would like to have the third one in my lifetime, so I guess I can't say that many good things about it. So yeah, so that's what I liked about the book in terms of framing. The book itself is, I'd say it's set in, like, in Venice if Venice was in Spain, because I think it's very much Spanish culture, and there's the whole, like, witch, anti-witch thing going on, and Leo, who is trans, he wants to become a witch to become, like, a man for real, which is, like, obviously you don't have to, like, look like a man to be a man. I don't need to get into all that. If you don't think that, if you are transphobic, just leave. Bye. Go away. But so he starts dabbling with like magical practices, and his family is obviously, because it's kind of like old-timey, what do I say, historic Spain, is very transphobic. Whenever he buys men's clothes or gets a hold of men's clothes, his uncle, who's very abusive, and his father's not in the picture, his uncle like gets rid of the clothes, and they're always calling him by his like legal name, his dead name. So there's that going on, but he has like a housekeeper or someone who's living with him. Not really a housekeeper, she's just like there, and she's a witch, and she starts teaching him how to like do magic, and it's very dark. Like there's a lot of stuff going on, which I think was why I was drawn to it, because reading a book in a foreign language can be really, really boring, I think, unless there's like, maybe, would I say trashy? Like if I had read this book in English, maybe it would have been like a bit too much, like too grim, too violent. Especially there's some like sexual violence in there, which I really, really didn't like. But because I was reading it in a foreign language, I was like, is this really what's happening right now? Like, am I really understanding this? So it kind of kept me reading somehow. And then at one point he gets sent to a nunnery. Sorry, I guess that's spoilers. He gets sent to a nunnery, and the book ends with him doing something in the nunnery, which is crazy. It's a very interesting, like, oh god, like, wow, that is an escalation. So I'm really excited for where the second book is gonna go, because it's dark, but I like the power creep, especially when the power creep makes the main character evil. So I'm really interested to know how he becomes like the person who goes to prison to be executed because he's like the baddest wizard like ever. I want to know about that. So yeah, I think this book came out in 2024. It does not have a English translation because it's pretty small press. I don't think it was self-published, but almost self-published. Like, I don't know if it's super well known, but I really liked it. I hope the author, whose name I didn't say, I have it written down. It's a long name. Bear with me. I forgot to talk about my Reddit bingo, so I'm gonna start doing that. Salitre, where are you? Oh, okay. I read it for Hidden Gems, which I think the Hidden Gem Square for the Reddit bingo is like, find a book on Goodreads that has less than X amount of reviews, and this one had very little, so I chose it, by Carlos D. Urate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to book 2. I maybe spoke too long on that. Where did I put it? Yeah, I would put it there. Next we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is like I want to say it's set in Russia, like Slavic area. The main character is Jewish, and she's a money changer, money lender. And her parents, she's like a teenager, I think. Her parents are her dad's like not a very good money lender. Like, he just kind of lets people default, and he doesn't ask for his change back. And she sees that they're getting really poor, and she's like, I'm gonna do it then. So she's in the small town, and she goes on the houses, and she's like, you owe me, give me my money, like, do it. So that's like, she starts getting kind of more famous, and the Fairy King, the Fae King, the King of Winter, I don't know if they're fair, it's like, he's like the embodiment of winter, takes notice of her because the winter people, are they fairies? I don't remember, are obsessed with gold, and she's basically able to make gold. So then he's like, well, marry me. and so she's dealing with that, and then there's another POV where this woman has just gotten married. Oh my god, guys, you did just hear that? That was a crazy voice crack. Oh my god, wow. Maybe I just need water. This woman has just gotten married to the Tsar. And the Tsar is actually a fire demon. And so she's trying to stay alive with her fire demon husband, who essentially just wants to kill her when nobody's looking, and she's trying to make sure that somebody's always looking. So there's these two women POVs and these two toxic men, and they all kind of interweave into a fun little fairy tale like book. I think I need to take a break after this one because I'm losing my train of thought. I liked it a lot. I thought the writing was really beautiful, which was interesting because Naomi Novik also wrote A Deadly Education, like this series, and the writing couldn't be any more different. A Deadly Education is all just Elle, the main character, talking a mile a minute. Whatever is coming to her mind is on the page. This one is very purposeful. There's multiple POVs. I don't think any of it... Maybe one of the characters is like a first-person POV and the rest are like third-person. But it's just... Oh my god, it's very different. I'd put it high B. Maybe I should think about what should go in S, because I'm still not on S yet. But yes. That is Spinning Silver. There's another book she wrote. I don't know if I have it. Oh, it's called Uprooted. I think it's also of a similar vein where it's like real life folklore, but kind of written in a magical realism / fantasy way. That one might be about Rumpelstiltskin. I don't know. I have to read it. I've had it forever and I've just kind of never read it, so that will be on the list eventually, and maybe you'll see it in the next book review. Okay, next book is The Thief by Megan Wallen Turner. Honestly, I didn't really want to read this per se. I just happened to have it, and it's recommended a lot on r/fantasy. So I was like, you know what? It's really short. I'll read it because I don't have anything else to read. It's, I think, sort of Greek-based setting. They go on a heist. The main group goes on a heist to go steal or gain back a relic. That's kind of basically the main plot. The reason it was recommended a lot was that there's a plot twist in it. And I have read this before, but I didn't remember it. But maybe because I knew there was a plot twist, I knew exactly when it happened. I could tell exactly when the thing happened and what was happening. So when the final reveal came, I was just like, oh, whatever. I thought it was kind of entertaining. I thought the writing was pretty funny and the character dynamics were pretty funny, but the story itself just wasn't all that. I would put it in C. I'm trying to think of where I should put it. Maybe I'd put it at the top of C. It was pretty enjoyable still. The next book I have, actually, let me see. Let me check my Reddit bingo and see if that filled out a square for me at all. The Thief. I don't think it did. I guess real quick I'll go back and say which ones I have, because I forgot I should be talking about this as well, in case anybody also does Reddit bingo, which would be great. We could talk about it. But if you need recommendations, I have them. So for published in the 80s square, I did Guards by Terry Pratchett. For Down with the System square, I did The Lathe of Heaven. Impossible Places, A Deadly Education. A book, have I talked about House of Chains yet? Yeah, A Book in Parts, which is basically like epilogue, prologue, and then parts of the book. I did House of Chains by Stephen Erickson. Gods and Pantheons, I did Shaman's Crossing by Robin Hobb. Book club / read along, I did A Wizard of Earthsea. Oh, I totally forgot to add a book to this. Okay. Square has been added. Forgot that I read The Handyman Method, so I wanted to add that in. Back to Reddit bingo. Epistolary, which means it has a prologue and an epilogue, maybe? Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. Stranger in a Strange Land, I did Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Recycle a square, so you can choose a bingo square from a previous year's Reddit bingo, fantasy bingo. I chose the Druid square from 2023 and chose Forest Mage by Robin Hobb. And I think that's everything I've talked about so far. So if you are interested in completing your Reddit bingo like me, and you weren't sure what to read for certain squares, I hope that sort of helped you. Anyways, we now have The Haunting of Leigh Harker by Darcy Coates. I've read another book by Darcy Coates. Oh, Where He Can't Find You. So I've read Where He Can't Find You by Darcy Coates. I liked this one a lot more. She is, I'd say, pretty well known for being a good horror novelist, author. I still think that her writing style isn't all that. I don't think the prose is that good, but that's not all that goes into writing a horror novel. This one I thought had a really good twist. Would I put it in A? No, I'd put it top of B. I thought it had a really good twist, which made the book very enjoyable because it starts out as just a very general haunted house book. There's a woman, her name's Leigh, and she's living in a house and weird things are happening in the house. But as you go through the book, I don't want to spoil it. I would really recommend this one actually because it's a short read, and it's got a good twist. As you get through the book, you realize what's actually happening with the haunting. There are some parts of it that are very tragic and sad, but other than that, I thought, well, honestly, because of that, I thought it actually added a bit to the story, and I think it has some rereadability because once you realize what's happening, now that I'm thinking about it, reading back, you would realize things are not all they seem. So, yeah, I liked that a lot more than the Where He Can't Find You, which is the other book I've read by her. I am kind of looking for more horror novels to read. So far in here I have Haunting, Diavola. I might have a couple more that I've read. I'm trying to get more into it because it's a good, like, if I read a bunch of long fantasy series, I like to break them up with like a short little horror one-off novel and then just move on. Speaking of really long fantasy series, we have Midnight Tides, which is the sixth book in the Malazan series, which I've already talked about, the two ones prior to that. Midnight Tides, I did not like this book. What did I not like about it? I have to remember. I just remember not liking it. Well, okay, so this book doesn't tell you that chronologically, I mean, it's the sixth book in the series, so you'd think that it's happening after everything else. It doesn't hold your hand. I'm pretty sure like 60% of this book, if not, no, all of this book happens before every other book in the series, or at least like at the same time as book one, like somewhere in there. And that's never made clear. I think that's how it works because the character who's in this is also in the previous one, but like you just know that this had to happen before the previous one, all the events in this one, to understand like what's happening. So honestly, because I knew how the main character in this book turns out, because I had read the book before, I kind of wasn't into this one because I know that it's gonna not go well. And it was just kind of depressing to see like to see it all go to shit. I did like some characters in this one in particular though. Let me pull up the list of important people. So there's like three main narratives going on. There's one going on in like the rural lands to the north, and then in the south there's a city, and there are some POVs in the city and some in the north. In the city, I really liked what's his name? Tehol, Tehol. He's like, everyone thinks he's like a down on his luck businessman, like super destitute, and he's just scheming the whole time. And his butler, who's more than a butler, is also scheming the whole time. So I actually did really like their kind of part of the story. It was a lot lighter of a story or a narrative than you usually get in the Malazan series. And the other parts made up for it because the other parts were really kind of dark and sad, and you know things are not going to go well. Honestly, now that I'm talking about it, I think I did like this one more than House of Chains, which is the one that came before it, but less than Memories of Ice. So I'm going to put it... Would I put it in A? I might put it in A. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually think I liked it more than I thought. It's just kind of sad, but as per usual, this series leaves a lot left to be answered in later book. Maybe many later books, because I'm pretty sure the book after this, which is called The Bone Hunters, does not follow these characters. You pick them up like much later. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I hope you guys are okay with me talking about Malazan in great detail, because if you haven't really broken into this series, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm trying to generalize it as much as possible so it sounds interesting and you get my thoughts on it, but it's hard. Next is The Handyman Method by... I can't read that. That is too small of a thumbnail. It's by two people. One of them is Cutter, I think. Nick Cutter and Andrew Sullivan. This was also like a one-off horror novel. I'm putting this in D. I'm not going to put anything in F, because actually F tier is just going to be Del Toro Quest, which I'll talk about next. Which I like. I like Del Toro Quest, so I will give it a smiley face. Okay, so the plot of The Handyman Method, without spoiling it, is that this couple, it's a husband and a wife and their child, who's like a 10-year-old boy, move into a new house, which is on... I'm going to put up like a little picture for this, but if you've ever watched Arrested Development, and the family, who's the main characters in Arrested Development, they live in this subdivision that hasn't been actually like built up yet. Like there's no other houses except for their house, and their house is like the model house. It's not even a real house. That's kind of what this is like. They move into a new subdivision where theirs is the only house like in the division. Nothing else has been built yet. And to begin with, the house seems like really good. It seems brand new. It's got all the bells and whistles. And then the main character, the husband, whose name I don't care to remember because I hate him, he finds a crack in the wall of the closet. And he's like, well, shit, I just bought this house. Like, I have to fix this crack. So he looks up on YouTube how to fix it. And he realizes that the YouTube channel, like over time, the house keeps getting all these problems. And the YouTube channel miraculously somehow keeps uploading videos that are exactly what he needs for his problem. And what I wouldn't say I didn't like this book. I'd say I didn't enjoy it. I think it was really well written, but it was too stressful for me because basically over the course of the time, and it happens pretty early on, so I wouldn't call this spoilers, is that more so than like the haunted house stuff happening, which there is that is also happening, the part that was scary and really stressful to me is that this YouTuber basically makes this man into the most toxic version of himself that like you could ever see. He becomes like a misogynist and like a conservative and like super fringe beliefs. Not fringe because I would say they're kind of common in parts of America, or people have them and you just don't know it. But he just becomes like a horrible husband and a horrible father from the influence of this YouTube channel. And it just like, it really stressed me out because he was the main point of view. And sometimes he would just go into great detail about like beating his wife or something, or wanting to beat her up and like fantasizing about it. And I was like, ugh, I can't, like, this is the scary part, but the scary part really is supposed to be what is happening in the house, like the haunted house. And I just couldn't get over like how horrible of a person he was becoming, even though it wasn't his fault. I couldn't. So it was a really hard read for me. I would put it in D because I just couldn't enjoy it. I would put it above Jasmine Throne though, because I actually read it. Next we have 4 Del Toro Quest books, which I'm just gonna throw all of them into here in no particular order. Do I have some around? Yeah. So Del Toro Quest is this series of children's books I read as a kid. And you can see on the spine, basically the plot of the however many books, like 8-book series, is that these 3 people go on a journey to collect these stones from various monsters around the continent, to reunite the stones into a belt, which can only be worn by the true king of Del Toro, or queen, which is Del Toro is the name of the continent. So each book is them going to a new region and finding the stone. So this first one, they find the topaz stone in the Forest of Silence. Sometimes I just read these because I get nostalgic and I just feel like it. So the ones that I read here are, I think, 5, 6, 7, and 8, with 8 being like the last one in the series. I don't really have like bad or good things to say about them. I think the monster design is really good. I think there are some genuinely creepy parts of these books. They're by Emily Rhoda, by the way, that still kind of hold up today, even though the writing is very, very juvenile. It's for children. And the plot is just, one and done each book. I liked the Valley of the Lost, which is this one, the most, because this old man here was basically like, I'll give you the stone if you solve my riddle. And then they get to solve the riddle, and it was kind of fun. So that's that series. I actually have I've collected them all because they're kind of hard to find now. And I had a bunch from my childhood, and then I kind of completed the series when I realized that they were hard to get. So there's another series after that where they go fight dragons, I believe. And then there's another series where they go to the Shadowlands and fight some monsters. And one of those, this is so off topic, but I remember it being really scary as a kid because they join this like masked caravan in one of the books, and the caravan leader is really obsessed with the main character, whose name is Leaf, because apparently Leaf looks like her dead son. And she basically tries to brainwash him into becoming her dead son. Like, she gives him his old mask. It's an owl mask, I think. And if they wear it too long, they can't take it off. It adheres to their face. So there's like a scene in the book where all 3 of the main characters are realizing that they have to take the masks off, and it's like ripping the skin off their face as they're trying to get the mask off. That was probably 12 years ago that I read that, and I still remember it. So obviously, really stuck. So yeah, I'm gonna make a Del Toro Quest tier. It's not F tier because I think Del Toro Quest is good, but I can't rank it with these other books. It's like ranking manga in one of these. Next we have Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, which is actually 2 people, I believe, who co-wrote this book. It was a good book. It was a really good book, but it's so long. There was so much stuff in here that I'm gonna put it at the top of C. There was so much stuff in here that I thought was gonna go somewhere, and then just never went anywhere because it was too early in the book to go anywhere, and it just really could have been chopped out. Now, don't get me wrong, I do kind of like extraneous details because I think it adds to the world building. So I wasn't exactly mad that it was like a longer book than it needed to be, because I was still intrigued by the characters and their dynamics and the world. Speaking of the world, I thought the world was really good because I think one of the problems I have with especially Western fantasy is probably within the first 50 pages, you can tell what ancient society it's based off. Usually it's like generally Europe, like England. Not even generally Europe, like Western Europe. Or maybe you're doing something with the Inquisition. Maybe you're doing something in Venice. Maybe you're doing something with like gladiators, Rome, or ancient Greece. Like those, I think those are the big ones that you see all the time. And with this one, it was kind of Venice, but it was also simultaneously like Slavic and also like South Central American indigenous. So there was a lot going on, and I appreciated that variety because I couldn't just pinpoint like one society and be like, that's what this is based off. And I appreciate that because it just gets boring if you read a lot of books about ancient Rome. I get bored by that. So that's what I liked about it. Overall, it's like a con heist book where the main character is trying to weasel her way into a rich family, but the rich family is not as rich as it seems from the outside. And over time, she gets like really engrossed into the local politics of the city and also what the family is dealing with that she's trying to con her way into. Yeah. And also she's special in some way because it's a YA book. Well, I don't know if it's YA. I'd say it's YA. I did like the representation as well. There was a lot of like LGBTQ plus representation, which was good. The writing style was not really memorable. So that's that. I think I'll read the next one. It's called The Liar's Knot, but it's just kind of on my list for someday. I don't really have any good plans. we're getting into it. Next is Gideon the Ninth. Oh my god. I love this book, guys. I talked in length about this series, the Locked Tomb series, in a recent book corner of one of my videos. It was the video where I drew Elden Ring fan art. I drew Miquella and Saint Trina. This is going high A. I'm gonna put it, honestly, okay, I'm gonna put these in S, put those in A. Okay. Gideon, oh man, I love the Locked Tomb series, so good, it's so good, I love it so much. This one I actually would say is the weakest of the 3 books, just because the world isn't fleshed out yet. I think Tamsin Muir, who's the author, she's really good at building up the world so that instead of just dumping on you like this is how the world works, the first book, which is I'd say pretty common in a lot of trilogies, you only get a very small slice of what the world is like, and over the next 2 books she builds on it into a way that both really changes the context of the books that came before it and just makes them so much more interesting. You're like realizing all these things of what's actually happening and what the background of everything is. Oh my god, it's like a puzzle. I love books like that where you're trying to figure out what is actually happening in the world without the author explaining it to you, and you're just kind of like trying to piece through the dialogue of the characters, and you're like, who's that? Like, who are they talking about? What are they talking about? Things like that. Very good. So this first one, very basically, Gideon is a cavalier, which is basically like a knight or a personal guard, and she goes with Harrow, who's a necromancer, to a haunted mansion to solve a puzzle, essentially, to solve a mystery. And they're part of the 9th planet, and there are planets 2 through 8 are like the main factions, so they're part of the 9th. And 2 through 8 also have their own necromancer cavalier pair, and everyone's either competing or working together to try to solve the mystery. That's the plot of the first book. Harrow and Nona the 9th are the 2 that come after it, and I can't really say much about them because it's so spoilery, but just know that Harrow is better than Gideon in my opinion because there's more depth, and Nona is my top book of the year probably because I had no idea what was going on, kind of like 80% of the book, and I love that. I love trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm so excited for the next one, which is called Alecto the Ninth. I don't think it has a release date yet, but I really can't wait for that. So that's the Locked Tomb series. These all appeared on my Reddit bingo. Let's see. Gideon the Ninth was for my LGBTQIA pro tag. Knights and Paladins, I used, for the Knights and Paladins square, I used Harrow the Ninth, because I think Cavaliers are closest enough to Knights, Paladins, whatever. And then for the Biopunk square, I used Nona the Ninth, and Biopunk is a square I still kind of don't understand that much, but my understanding of it is it's like body modification, like cyberpunk, but instead of cyber, it's like all natural, and I think necromancy counts for that, so that is my Biopunk square. Next, I read, what is this called? Mokuyobi ni wa koko wa o by, I don't know who this is by. Okay, so I read Aoyama, Mokuyobi ni wa koko wa o by Aoyama Michiko. Okay, so this book has an English translation. It's called Coffee on Thursdays. It was not fantasy, it was not horror, it's more or less just slice of life. I'm gonna put it in C because I thought it was boring, but I just basically needed a book of short stories that I could read in Japanese to feel like I could actually finish a book in Japanese, which I can because I have 2 more after that, so it kind of helped my confidence a lot. The main bulk of the book, it's a bunch of short stories that are connected somehow, usually through, like, one person appears in one short story and then they come into another one, and maybe they're a side character in one and a main in the next. And most of them take place in Japan, but near the end, some of them take place in Australia, I think Sydney specifically. So it was a good, like, little nighttime read. I think I read it at the same time as reading Handyman Method because this book was so distressing to me. I had to, like, go read my little, like, short story, like, oh, he works at a cafe and he calls this lady Coco because she always orders cocoa on Thursdays and he's in love with her. That's the first story. That's what the first story is about. It just was very restful to me to read that after something like Handyman Method. I usually do read 2 books at a time. I'm trying to read like a Spanish or Japanese book and then an English book at the same time, so I still am getting that language in there. I would recommend it if you're like interested in Japanese literature. If you're learning Japanese, it's a really, really easy read. Japanese-wise, there's no hard kanji. The plot is very simple because it's just a normal world and society, so you probably already know all the vocab. So it's good from that perspective. Generally, I just don't read books like this. I read a lot of fantasy, so I didn't like it that much. I'm actually going to put it low C. I'm going to put the lowest of C. Next, I read Howls from the Dark Ages. Oh wait, I think the Coco on Thursdays was in my Reddit. Bingo. Oh, no, it wasn't. Okay. Next, I read Howls from the Dark Ages, which is a medieval horror anthology. And the reason I read it was because I saw the name Patrick Buehlman in there. And if you guys don't know Patrick Buehlman, he wrote The Black Tongue Thief, which I don't have. I do have, but it's too far away. The Black Tongue Thief and The Daughter's War, which are 2, and also Between Two Fires. 3 really, really good fantasy books. The Between Two Fires is like the medieval horror fantasy one, which is why I think he was involved with Howls of the Dark Ages. But The Black Tongue Thief, definitely one of my S tiers of last year. It was so good. It was so funny. The writing style was just like nothing I'd ever read, so I really liked that. This book, he didn't actually write any of the short stories in the book. It was a bunch of different authors writing the short stories. He just wrote the foreword. I didn't really like it. I'd put it at the top of D because some of the short stories were horrendously bad. The first short story in this book, it's kind of honestly a miracle I didn't drop the book, because it was just like, to me, it was like how a YA author who did no research as to the Middle Ages but wanted to add drama would write a medieval short story. That's what I got out of it. I thought it was poorly written. I thought the research was, like, it just felt anachronistic, if that's the right word. Like, it just didn't feel like it was set in the right time period. It was supposed to be medieval, but what was happening did not feel medieval at all. I just really didn't like that. There was one particular, let me see if I can look it up. There's one particular short story that I did really like. And I want to shout it out because I thought it was the best one. Wikipedia. Okay, well, is this recording? Can you see this? Yeah, you can. Okay. So The Crowing, which is the first one, that one I thought was the worst one. I really liked the final book of Saint Foy's Miracles. I thought this one was pretty funny and weird. The Mouth of Hell was my favorite one. It was about people who find the mouth of hell and it's a cave. I think those were like the best 2. A lot of the other ones were just like kind of mid. I didn't have much to say about them, to be honest. They weren't bad, but they weren't all that. So that's why it's in D, because there were only 2 ones that I thought were like really, really good. Next we have Honogurai Mizu no Soko Kara, which in English is just called Dark Water by Suzuki Koji, which is also has an English translation. I'd put it like high. I'd put it mid B. Where would I put it? I'd put it above Shaman's Crossing. This was also a book of short stories because honestly, it's just easier for me to read short stories in Japanese because it's just kind of one and done and you can just reset and go on to the next short story. These were a bunch of short stories based off water, and it was a horror novel. So the first one was about this woman and her daughter who live in an apartment building, and the woman and the daughter go up to the roof to set off some fireworks because it's like summer and that's what you do in Japan, and they find this Hello Kitty backpack up there. The daughter's obsessed with it. But they go down to the management, like the front desk of the apartment, and they both know, the daughter and the mom know that there hasn't been a kid living in the building other than the daughter for like 2 years. So it's really, really strange that this mint condition Hello Kitty backpack is up there. And so that's kind of what the first story is about, like the mom tweaking out about this backpack and what it could mean. And it's sort of ambiguous in the end, but it is kind of freaky. Another one of them is about this couple and a guy on a yacht, and the couple is trying to rope him into a pyramid scheme. But as they're on the yacht, like they're coming home from their trip, like, or coming back to the marina from their trip, and the yacht stops working, and in the water they find a child's shoe from Disneyland. Strangely, they just know it's from Disneyland because Disney Sea is actually really close to how do I explain this? Like Tokyo, the eastern coast, like Edogawa side, Kasai side, that's where Disney Sea is. So they're like in there, and they find this like shoe, and then the yacht stops working, and that's kind of what that one's about, and them trying to solve that. The other, I think there's maybe 6 or 7 stories in this one. A lot of the other ones weren't that memorable, which is why I would put it like a mid B. I do think the reason that I vibed with this less, because I thought the stories were kind of eerie and strange. One, because they weren't straight up scary. I need it to be explicitly scary to really feel connected to a book, if it's gonna be horror. But also because it was in Japanese, like maybe there were just parts of it that just didn't connect to me as much because I don't read that much Japanese literature. I'm trying to get into it. So maybe that's why I would rate it lower, and if I read it again in like 5 years, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was great, I'd give that an A, but maybe not. So that's that one, From the Depths of Dark, that's what I'm calling it, but the English translation is just Dark Water, that's it. And this guy, Suzuki Koji, he also did The Ring, like all of those books, so he's well known for that, but I chose this one because it was short stories. The lighting has changed, time has passed, and I have 5 books left to talk about. So the next book I read, unexpected. This one's been on my to-read list for a while. It's The Narrow Road Between Desires by Patrick Rothfuss. Partially because finding this book used was hard for a while, and then I finally found it for like $4, yes! But also because I feel conflicted thoughts about Patrick Rothfuss now. He wrote The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, which is books 1 and 2 of a trilogy. Allegedly a trilogy because it's been 10, maybe more, 12 years since the second book came out, and there's just no sign of the third book, even though he said he would tease it, and then he didn't. It was kind of controversial. You know, people donated on his Twitch to get a teaser of it, and then he never gave it to them. But he wrote this novella. It came out pretty recently, like last 2 years, I think, and it takes place in the same world as The Name of the Wind, but from a different character's point of view. His name is Bast, and he's like a fae. He's a fairy, so he's very mischievous, and it's just kind of his like little adventures in the town where the main character lives, Kavath, where he lives, just kind of like causing trouble, but also helping people and making bargains and all the things that fae do. So it was fine. Honestly, I'll put it in C because I didn't think the prose was that good. I didn't think it was really up to snuff as far as Rothfuss goes. Maybe I just haven't read like The Name of the Wind in a while, so my standards have changed since then, but I don't know, I didn't think it was as good as I was expecting it to be. Yeah, I didn't really care for it. The art in it, I liked the idea of the art. Each little chapter, one of the things that Bast does is he takes like little trinkets out of his bag and like tosses them down. It's like some sort of fortune telling or divination. And so at the start of each chapter, someone's drawn in, the artist for this book has drawn in the little trinkets in each chapter, but the actual like illustrations within the book, I really do prefer to just kind of imagine things. So when I saw like what Bast looked like according to this person, I was like, I don't like that. I don't want to see that. Next we have Patricia Briggs with the Mercy Thompson series. So this is book 6 and this is book 7 of this series. Disclaimer up front, the covers look really stupid. The covers look so stupid. And it's urban fantasy, so you might... It outwardly looks kind of like, I don't know, cringe. But this series, I love this series. The premise is that Mercy Thompson, she lives in the tri-state area of Washington, which is like southeast Washington State, I believe. Is that true? Yeah, I think that's true. And she is a shifter, so there's like werewolves, vampires, witches, fae in this world. And she's Native American, so rather than like turning into a wolf, she turns into a coyote. And she gets involved with like the local wolf pack. And it's just kind of her adventures navigating the supernatural underside or side of this city that she lives in. I really like her as a character. I feel like a lot of the times with urban fantasy, the general storyline is if it's a woman or a girl, she realizes she has special powers, but she doesn't know how to use them and she's so helpless, and a man comes in and fixes all her problems, and maybe she's special in like one occasion. With this series, first of all, she's very independent, and I respect that. She's a mechanic. She's just kind of living her life. The romance in the books don't even get going until like book 4, I think, of the series, and I don't want to talk about it. I think it's well done. I don't want to spoil it, but I think the romance is well done, actually. It's like one of the few that I actually am like, okay, I can get behind this. I think this is pretty good. And from the beginning, her like knowledge of all the supernatural stuff and what she's capable of doing and a lot is already established. So I just appreciated that Patricia Briggs is like, yep, this is our 30-year-old-ish main character. This is what she can do. This is what she's capable. And she's confident about it. And I like that. I'd say the books can get kind of repetitive, which is why I read them like every once in a while. I use them as like sort of a palate cleanser. But what had happened with these two is that I found this one in a used bookstore and thought it was the next one that I had like in my list of reading, but actually I hadn't read this one, so I went and read this one real quick so I could read the next one. And this one, what's this one's called? Frostburned, I think. Who was the baddie in this one? Who was the bad guy in this one? They were doing vampire stuff in this one. It kind of switches off, like one book's vampires, one book's fae, one book's werewolves, things like that. They were doing werewolf stuff and vampire stuff in this one, and I thought it was pretty fun. I'd put it in a mid B. And then this next one I liked a lot, actually, not because of the monster or anything, but kind of happening in the background is that Mercy is like married to somebody now, but that who she's married to has an ex-wife who like gets in trouble and has to move back in with them. And just the dynamics of Mercy being like, this is such bullshit, like I hate this woman, why is she living with us, but also having to put up with it was just so funny to me, that I would put it higher. I'd put it like here. I don't know, I just like really, these books are not really like, I don't know if they're really all that special, but there's just something about them that's like really chill and comforting to me, and I like Mercy as a main character, so maybe I'm just being overly nice. I think they're fun. Oh my god, we're down to the last 2 books. So the book that I just recently finished is called Hennaie, or Strange Houses, by Uketsu, who is a Japanese horror YouTuber, who I followed separately. I just like follow him on YouTube. Or them. I think he's male. And then I picked up this book at the bookstore and I was like, yo, I know this guy. I didn't know he wrote books. I thought he just like read them on his channel, but he's the actual author. So this book has an English translation. It's called Strange Houses. Actually, I'm gonna grab the copy real quick. Where is it? so that I can show you what I really like about this book as like a Japanese language learner. Let me see if it'll actually appear. Is that there's a lot of like diagrams in it. Like this. Can you see? Are you seeing? With like the floor plan of the houses. And everything is told from dialogue. So like these are like the characters' names, and the whole book is basically just a big conversation, which is way easier to read than like a traditional novel if you're learning a language. For that reason alone, this is a really good book to read as a Japanese learner. The basic plot is that this guy who is like something of a, what would you call it? Like he's very knowledgeable about like urban legends and like sort of urban myths and like the ghost supernatural happenings, and I think this is Tokyo. He has a friend who's looking to buy a house in Tokyo, and before he buys the house, he wants this guy, the narrator, to look at the floor plan and be like, do you think anything's weird about this? And he looks at the floor plan, and he brings his friend in to also look at the floor plan with him. So it's the guy who wants to buy the house, and then the two guys looking at the floor plan. And one of the guys notices that on the second floor of the house, the children's room is in the middle of the house, surrounded with no windows. And they formulate this like hypothesis that the house, this is really early on, this is not spoilers because it really spirals out from here. They formulate this hypothesis that the house has been used to like murder people who come there. So like the child, nobody knows the child's there because their room is hidden away, and they kind of lure guests to the house and the child like kills them, and then they dispose of the body and stuff like that. But there are, you know, emphasis on houses, so that's where the plot gets more interesting. And then eventually a woman gets involved who's sort of associated with these houses in some way. So I really liked this. It kept me on my toes because I really just thought, in Japanese, there's no plural or singular, so when I read this henna ie, I thought it was just strange house. And then you get halfway through and you're like, one house? Multiple houses? So that was interesting. It was easy to follow, which I appreciated. It was a very quick read, even for a Japanese book, which they're known to be very small. This was really, really fast. There is a sequel, which is called Strange Houses 2. And then there's two, like offshoots, I guess. One of them is Strange Pictures, which I'm gonna read next because it came out after this one. And then one just came out called Strange Maps, I believe. So that's also on my list, but I'm gonna read them in the order in which he wrote them. So it'll be Strange Pictures, and then Strange Houses 2, and then Strange Maps, if I get that far. But yeah, I really liked this book. I'd put it like a low A because I also felt like triumphant that I was like, oh, I read this in Japanese. I read it really fast. I read it in like 4 days. I understood everything, like blah, blah, blah. The one thing I would say that would maybe put it into a B for me was the ending was really abrupt, and also just like it felt really shoehorned in. Basically, the last part of the book is the two guys who were looking at the floor plan originally. They're having a conversation, and one of the guys is like, but I find something strange about everything that just happened in the last 200 pages. What if blah, 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 blah. And then it like completely turns the book on its head. And then he's like, well, just conjecture. Like there's no way that's what would actually be happening. And I just thought that was like a really weird way to end the book. So I'm interested to see what the second one will be doing, because that ending, I just liked the rest of the book, so I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna move on with this. Like, I'm okay with this, but I thought it was kind of bad. And then finally, we're on my last book, which I'm currently reading, actually. I haven't finished it, because for Fantasy Reddit Bingo, the square I've really been struggling with is the 2025 square, which is reading something published in 2025. I don't know, most of the authors I follow, their series are a bit older, or I'm behind in the series, so all the books that I'm reading are published, a bit a bit ago, a couple years ago, usually. So I didn't really have anything in mind that I wanted to read for this one. And finally I was like, you know what, I'll pick up The Devils because it's a one-off. Joe Abercrombie is famous. And it's my favorite thing, which is like getting a band of people together and going to do something. Or so I thought. I'm not finished with this book. I'm maybe... Where's my Kindle? It's too far away. I'm maybe like less than 50%, maybe like 40% in. So far, all the characters seem really like one note to me. There's like a werewolf, and she's the unstable one. And there's the old knight, and he's the old one. And there's a wizard, and he's the pompous one. And there's the princess, and she's the insecure one. And it's just like, can we do a little bit more than that, please? And I'm really surprised because, first of all, Joe Abercrombie is like really, really well known in fantasy circles. And I did read The Blade Itself. Do I have it? Which is the first one in some series that he wrote. And I didn't continue with the series for some reason. I read this like 6 years ago, but I remember really liking the characterization, especially of Glotka, I think was their name. I don't exactly remember. So I'm just really surprised that this book is just not hitting with me. I'm gonna put it at the low D for now because I just don't like it. Maybe it'll move up over time, but I just wanted to talk about that one because that's my current read. I'm filming this, as I said, December 10th. So probably this whole video, which is a very long video, it's been like an hour and a half. We'll see how much I edit out. Will come out. I want it to be my last video of December, which is my last video of 2025. Oh my god, which is crazy. Because I feel like this is just kind of a fun video to put out at the end. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. I do actually want to review my tiers and see if everything's in order within the tiers. Like, is this my highest S ranked? I think Nona the Ninth was my best read of the year. And then I would agree with all of that. Would I put Leigh Harker above Guards? I would maybe put Guards higher. I would honestly maybe move this up now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, okay, I'll put that in A. And I would put this higher in A because it was very enjoyable, honestly. Or B, higher in B. House of Change should be higher because Malazan. I would put Earthsea higher as well. Honestly, I'm just putting Shaman's Crossing lower and lower because this book was it was a slog. Where's Forest Mage? Is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. C. Okay, I don't know if I would put Cursed Bunny lower than that. I'm gonna leave it. House with Good Bones. Yep, I think definitely The Devils has been my worst read so far. Yeah, I think this is my final tier list. Let me zoom in a little bit so y'all can see it. I guess if you have any questions for me regarding my book, my reading habits, any recommendations for me or any recommendations for you, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's about all I have to say. I think as far as my final videos of this year go, I guess they will have already come out. But hopefully here's what they are. I'm still working on a language learning video. It's basically done, but I don't know what to record for visuals because I'm a digital artist, so usually it's just speed paints and there's no speed paints that I can do, so I have to figure that out. And then I'm also working on designing some Pokemon inspired knights, so hopefully some content related to that will be out by the end of the year. But yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I hope you like me talking about reading, even though this is an art channel. And I hope you have a good holiday. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this, and I'll see you in 2026. Bye.